nations have the right to defend themselves and keep their communities safe from criminals, while saying he is concerned about what is going on in the United States.
Warning that the forceful removal of people purely because of their illegal status deprives them of their inherent dignity and will end badly.
Let's be real for a sec. We've all had that moment where we wished we could tell Trump exactly what we think of him. Well, guess what? Pope Francis just lived out our wildest dreams, and he did it with style. If you've ever fantasized about roasting the Orange Man himself, this video is for you. We're gonna break down how Francis turned Trump's wall into the punchline of the century. It's like watching your cool grandpa absolutely wreck your least favorite uncle at Thanksgiving dinner.
During the first Trump administration, Pope Francis famously said, "Anyone who builds a wall to keep out migrants is not a Christian."
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Now, everyone, let's get started on the fight that everyone has been waiting for the most during this century. Our man in the fancy hat, Pope Francis, has made the decision to substitute his customary prayers for some excellent burns that are directed directly at the Orange Menace. These burns are directed at the Orange Menace. Who would have thought that the Pope could become so ill?
Pope Francis addresses the bishops of the United States about the issue. The Holy Father also urged Catholics to consider the justness of laws and policy.
Just picture this. While Trump is dressed in his Sunday best and acting all pious, Francis makes the decision that it is time to teach him the nuances of what it means to be a decent human being. After all, the ideal person to teach morality is a man who has a direct line to the big guy upstairs. This is the ideal person to teach morality. There is no doubt that the question, wait a minute, isn't the Pope supposed to be all about forgiveness and turning the other cheek, is currently running through your head at this point. To tell you the truth, it appears that even the pontiff has a limit to the amount of bullshit that Donnie presents. It would appear that Francis awoke one day and uttered the following words: "You know what? I'm going to channel my inner John Oliver and roast this idiot through the use of my voice."
All right, so let's talk about another headline. Meantime, President Donald Trump's mass deportation effort getting some backlash from none other than Pope Francis.
What was our holy homie's opinion of the ambitious plan that Trump had to exclude bad hombres from the program? To put it mildly, he was not impressed by what he saw. In addition to dropping some very significant truth bombs, Francis compared Trump's wall to a spiritual dead end. Apparently, he is saying something along the lines of, "Hey Donnie, what about that wall of yours? It serves no purpose that is more important than the screen door of a submarine." How awful! It must be more painful than holy water for a vampire to experience that. On the other hand, Francis, our young man, did not stop there. "Oh no, he was just getting warmed up. Hallelujah," was the response that everyone gave when he started reciting zingers about bridges and Christian principles.
The Pope warned that the forceful removal of people because of their illegal status deprives them of, quote, their inherent dignity and will end badly.
It appears that he is telling Trump, listen up, you orange turd, because Jesus was more concerned with building bridges than he was with building walls against people. You like to wave that Bible around, so maybe try reading it sometime.
Warning that the forceful removal of people purely because of their illegal status deprives them of their inherent dignity and will end badly.
As the tension within the situation continues to rise, we are all left wondering, will Trump respond to the tweets? Is it possible that Jesus will send a message such as "bruh, chill" to his direct messages? It's keeping us on the edge of our seats. It has come to light that the Pope possesses both a sense of humor and a moral compass. What could have been more surprising than the fact that the person who is responsible for forgiveness could also deliver such a delightful dose of karma?
Well, the Trump administration now facing backlash from religious leaders across the globe over its immigration policies. Pope Francis.
It would appear that Pope Francis is continuing to make fun of the Trump family. This occurred while Donald was tweeting about walls and deportation, and Francis was targeting Melania. Can you remember the jacket that she was wearing? There are some opinions held by the Pope, and they are more poisonous than community communion wafers that have been soaked in the sun. Allow me to take you back to the time when the Trumps went to the Vatican in order to meet with Pope Francis. Just picture this. Melania gives the impression that she would rather be somewhere else. Donald is wearing the frown that has become his trademark, and the Pope is attempting to keep his eyes from rolling around until they fall out of his head. The Pope, a model, and a reality TV star all entering a bar is like the beginning of a joke that is not going to be funny.
Nations have the right to defend themselves and keep their communities safe from criminals, while saying he is concerned about what is going on in the United States.
On the other hand, our man Francis, who never misses an opportunity to say something holy, decided to compliment Melania. On top of that, he delivered it with elegance. Your beauty is so radiant that even Michelangelo would struggle to capture it in stone, he said, casting a glance in the direction of the First Lady to express his admiration. That was a smart move, Francis. Very easy to move around. Despite the fact that you might think that the Pope was merely being kind, it is imperative that you keep your rosaries close at hand. This sanctified compliment is more complicated than it may appear at first glance. You have to understand that in addition to being the leader of the Catholic Church, Francis is also an expert in the art of the subtle burn. In addition to praising Melania's charming appearance, he is expressing his disapproval of the Trump's tendency to be obsessed with everything shiny and gold.
During Trump's first administration, the Pope famously said that anyone who builds a wall to keep out migrants was, quote, not a Christian.
There is, however, more to come. He was not even close to finishing his papal roast. It was impossible for him to refrain from making fun of Trump's well-known obsession with size. The pontiff made the observation, if Michelangelo were designing statues for this particular leader, he'd need extra marble for the pedestal. How awful. Spending hours kneeling on a hard church pew must be more painful than what you are experiencing right now. Can you imagine what Trump's face would look like? When compared to his approval ratings, it is highly probable that his hair suffered a more rapid decline.
Well, Reed, Pope Francis has long been an outspoken and vocal advocate on behalf of migrants and refugees. And
where does Melania stand? Just to put it mildly, her smile was even more rigid than the spray tan that her husband had applied. Moreover, in addition to administering these sacred burns, Francis also imparted moral teachings. This is the most unfortunate aspect of the situation. He brought to everyone's attention the fact that substantial walls and gold toilets are not essential for genuine greatness. Love, mercy, and justice are all involved in this situation. That's the Trump Tower for you. Pope Francis just addressed President Trump's obsession with walls, and he did so in a manner that was more fashionable than a cardinal's hat collection.
The Pope demanding that countries welcome, protect, promote, and integrate those fleeing conflicts, poverty, and climate disasters.
People, it appears that Pope Francis just addressed this obsession. In addition to serving up burns that are hotter than the fires of purgatory, our holy homie Frankie possesses some quite impressive comedic abilities. As if he were a spiritual version of Bob the Builder, he is all about tearing down barriers and replacing hatred with desire for hope.
Good evening, Tracy. Pope Francis had very sharp words for President Trump's plans for mass deportations in a letter that was sent to the U.S. bishops.
Deportation of migrants and refugees who are fleeing persecution and poverty, saying that that undermines the dignity of human beings. And so,
in addition, the general public is consuming it in the same manner as communion wafers. It would appear that people are enjoying the sympathetic approach that the Pope is taking toward immigration. He brings to everyone's attention during the Global Church Picnic the fact that Jesus was more concerned with love thy neighbor than deport thy neighbor.
Pope Francis issuing a major rebuke today to the Trump administration's mass deportation of migrants.
His appearance is that of a young and hip pastor. This is something you should keep in mind the next time you are contemplating the construction of a wall, because the big guy upstairs is more of a bridge enthusiast. If the Pope is able to render politics in such a humorous manner, then perhaps there is still hope for C-SPAN. The next White House Correspondents' Dinner might even be hosted by Francis, who is a possible candidate. That is something that would be perfect for a comedy.